These are the new Beats Solo Buds, a pair of earbuds with a big name at a surprisingly low price. These offer an incredibly compact and lightweight form, great comfort, and an iconic design, all while costing just under $80. So, what compromises did Beats actually make to get this pair of earbuds costing so little? Well, I know Beats is typically viewed as just a brand for aesthetics or often worn by like celebrities or athletes, but in all honesty, Beats does make some great products. For example, I bring the Beats Fit Pro on almost every trip I go on because they're just so comfortable, they're reliable, they have great active noise cancellation microphones, they stay in my ears really well, and they're dual native. They work well with both Apple and Android. Now these, however, are 1/3 the price of the Beats Fit Pro. So we have some different expectations here. So these have the potential to be a great pair of earbuds if one specific thing doesn't bother you. I'll get to what that is in a second, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's kind of rewind and take a look at the design here. These come in 4 different colors. This one is by far my favorite. This is obviously the transparent red. The other ones, I believe, do not come in transparent, but like it's maybe translucent's a better word for this one. But I think it just looks so cool. Like in the light, you can see the earbuds through the case, but it's not super transparent. It's like the classic iconic Beats red. It looks really cool in my opinion, and it's really lightweight, incredibly compact. Definitely fits in the tiny pocket of your jeans. You can throw it in a bag. You're not going to lose it because it's very visible. I just think Beats finally like came to their own design here, something that is, I hope, really something they stick with for future products as well. The lightweight design is a little bit of a compromise on the battery life we'll talk about in just a minute, but I think it's kind of a good trade-off for these earbuds. Of course, they do not have wireless charging. It's really no surprise, and you can see right there, there is no coil, but $79, a lightweight pair of earbuds in a small case, I don't think that's a huge surprise. You do charge them on the back by USB Type-C, and I think 5 minutes of charging gives you 1 hour of listening, so you have some quick charge there as well. In addition, because it is such a small battery, you can pretty reliably charge this off of your phone, an iPad, your laptop, anything with USB Type-C, you just plug in a cable, you can top off your earbuds pretty quickly. Now, when you open them up, you get a little chirp. I don't know if you can really hear that with the microphone there. You might have heard it right there. You get a little chirp from the earbuds. There's no speaker on the case, but they play their own sound to really let you know that, they're awake. And then looking at them, these are not transparent, which I actually really like that the earbuds don't follow that same case design. I think these look a little bit more like a classic pair of earbuds that I would expect from Beats. What I really like is the comfort of these. So these do have a pretty similar geometry to the AirPods Pro when you put them in your ears. Also very, very similar if you've ever tried the older Beats, like the Beats Studio Buds, the Beats Studio Buds Plus. These feel a lot like those. So putting them in, you kind of twist them a little bit. I really like how there's that like pinchable exterior, so you're not going to accidentally control the earbuds. They don't actually have touch controls at all. They have button controls, really. I'll talk about that in a second. But you can adjust them very easily. So if you're running, you're working out, you gotta quickly adjust them. You can do that without controlling the earbuds. I think that's a huge win right there. Now you can comment what do you think about the aesthetics. For $79, it's gonna be hard to find a pair of earbuds that does a lot and looks decent. I think Beats kind of has their own design, their own look, so they're not going to be necessarily a bad look. People see Beats, they think they look cool, but I think they do stick out a little further than I would like. Maybe you can't really see when you're sitting like in a studio like this, but maybe up close, I think they stick out just a bit further than I would like. All right, so getting into a microphone test. These are the Beats Solo Buds. In a studio environment, obviously, this is really as easy as I think it would get. There's no echo in here. Unfortunately, there is no transparency mode for me to hear my own voice, so I feel like I may be speaking a little bit louder here. But let's go to a louder environment outside and see how they perform on like a busy sidewalk near a loud road, for example.
All right, so this is a very difficult test. There is a lot of traffic right behind me. Also, the sun's right in my eyes, and it's also breezy out. So if you can hear what I'm saying now, then I would say these are good microphones.
So how do the Beats Solo Buds sound? Well, first of all, they do have Bluetooth 5.3, so we should have a pretty stable connection. You can also use these in mono mode if you just want to kind of extend the battery by listening to one while the other's in the case. Bluetooth 5.3 is pretty nice. These, I think a lot of people have kind of a perception of what Beats sound like. Really heavy bass, a little bit muddy, definitely more catered to like rap and hard rock. Beats has kind of been trending away from that though. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, but to some Beats users, it is surprising. These have much less of a bass focus. It's a much more neutral balance than the older Beats products. And that's something that I think Beats is really going for. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily perfect. I find that if we're kind of looking at where the flaws are in these, I think that they do sound a little bit thin and do lack some details. I could be wrong on this. I haven't run like a test on the frequency response here, but I think that they do have an emphasis on lower mids up to around 600 hertz, and then higher vocals above that do kind of seem to get like eclipsed, kind of buried a little bit by those lower frequencies. There's not a huge amount of super low end. Like I said, it's not a gigantic bass lift like we used to see in the past, but I kind of would like to see a little bit more clarity, a little bit more of a well-rounded fullness on these earbuds. But if you don't compare them side by side with more premium options, they're definitely not bad. I think a lot of people would listen to these and be very happy with them, especially at the price. But speaking of the price, this price is getting a little bit more competitive now, and for just $20 more than these, we have the Nothing Ear A, which in my opinion sounds much better and has active noise cancellation, which kind of leads me into the point about active noise cancellation on the Beats Solo Buds. These don't have ANC or transparency, which does keep them lightweight and it does give you an extended battery life. However, what they do have, which I think is very cool and very interesting, is that they do have spatial audio. So if you really like listening to that, especially on Apple products, you have like a really cool, like Apple does that well. They do spatial audio very well. And so having that on here, I think is kind of a cool feature if you're watching media that has that, or if you're just really into that for certain types of music. As I said before, these do charge by USB Type-C on the back. Strangely, they do not include a cable in the box anymore. So, I mean, USB Type-C is super common. They probably figure everyone already has one anyway, so they just didn't include that. They claim to have an 18-hour battery life. I assume that's total between the earbuds and the recharges in the case. Nowhere on their website did they disclose the battery life in the earbuds themselves, and I personally don't like doing battery tests because everyone, like, depending on what kind of music you listen to, what volume you listen to, and things like that, you really could be getting, drastically different results. But I would expect not a huge battery life out of these. If I had to guess, I would say probably somewhere between 4 and 6 hours per charge with the earbuds, and then I would assume 18 total when you include the case. But if you wanted to listen to them in mono mode, you can definitely do that. But let's dive into the pros and cons of these earbuds. The pros, if you're buying these, of course, you do have that Beats aesthetic. Like, I love this case. I think that's a huge win for these. They're super lightweight, very pocketable, and I think a lot of people are going to compliment them. They're also dual native, so they work really well on iOS and Android in multiple ways. First of all, when you first open them up, they pair instantly with either one of those, just with a little prompt on your screen. And the second thing is that you do have Find My or Find My device, depending on iOS or Android. And of course, a third pro that I think is pretty significant is they do have spatial audio. Moving on to the cons, however, they do not have an IP rating, so no water resistance rating, even though I think a lot of people are going to run with these. And I would suspect that you should be able to get them wet. Of course, I have not done like a full water test here. I haven't done that, so don't necessarily get them wet and blame me for that. There's no IP rating, so technically you should try not to get them wet. But I would imagine that Beats has to know people are wearing these on a run and sweat. Hopefully should not be a problem. I imagine they just didn't want to spend the extra money on getting that IP rating. They also do not have autoplay and auto pause. When you take them out of your ears, for me, this is a big deal. If I'm listening to a podcast, it doesn't pause. Like, it'll just keep playing. And then the one huge drawback, like the biggest one for me by far, everything else so far, I think this is a great pair of earbuds. I really like these. But the one thing that would make me possibly not buy these earbuds, as I mentioned early in the video, is actually the controls. So these have physical buttons. Beats always does that. And I think usually it's a big win. Usually having physical buttons is great for working out. If your hands are wet, you're wearing gloves, they're just very reliable. But these, maybe it's just my unit here, but the buttons are just so mushy that you have to push it and sometimes you don't get it right. If you're trying to double press, like, just forget about it. And you push like this tiny little earbud pretty deep in your ear. It's just really uncomfortable to use the controls there. So I almost never use the controls on these, at least not when they're in my ear. I'll take them out and kind of instinctively press the button to pause them, but just kind of mushy buttons, and I think that could definitely be better. But in conclusion, on the Beats Solo Buds, I think if you could afford an extra $20, the Nothing Ear A, I think is probably a better option. Still a cool looking pair of earbuds, not for everybody, but better sound. They do have active noise cancellation and a couple other features as well. But if you really like how the Beats look, I don't think you'll be disappointed. There's still a really impressive offering from Beats, $79 for a pretty solid pair of earbuds that does a lot: spatial audio, dual native connectivity, and I think Beats really completes their lineup by adding the Beats Solo Buds. So let me know what you think below in the comments about the Beats Solo Buds, and since you watched the video this long, hopefully that means you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.